Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. Today we are talking about Microsoft Teams, and we'll be covering some of the ins and outs of and the basics of how to use it. A few quick housekeeping items before we get started. We will have some time for Q&A at the end. Hopefully we'll get to some of your questions. We also want to let you know that we will be doing a series of webinars around a variety of IT topics as it relates to remote work and things, so please stay tuned for that. And of course, we will also have this presentation available recorded after the fact, so you will feel free to share that with colleagues, friends, or whomever you think could use it. To get us started today, our presenter is Jeff Palazzo. Jeff is based in our Sacramento office and has been working in technology for over 38 years. Jeff has done network support for Fortune 100 companies, and he's worked in a variety of technology leadership positions. And he also has a variety of Microsoft certifications, so all-around pro. And we're grateful that Jeff could be joining us today to dive into Microsoft Teams. Jeff, welcome and take it away.
Hey, thank you very much, Gary. Thanks for having me on here. We're happy to talk today about Microsoft Teams and your organization because now more than ever, the need to collaborate remotely is important. So we'll throw up a couple of slides here, and then we'll go into a demo. So first of all, the title, How to Use Microsoft Teams for Your Organization, and this is the pandemic edition. What I'm saying here is that we have been thrust into a situation where we're going to be needing to work from home or from some other place than work in order to keep social distancing in place. So one of the things that I will do throughout today's session will be to kind of relate to how how Teams relates to needs that you're going to have from working from home. So our agenda, starting with work from home challenges, we'll go through kind of the main areas that are challenging. Then we'll talk briefly about creating a home workspace. We'll go into the demo to show how to leverage Teams to create an online community within your organization. And then we'll talk about collaboration, collaborating remotely. After that, we'll go to the Q&A, as Gary said, and from there we'll close. So what are the work from home challenges, the major ones? The first one is security, and this is even more so true if you have if you're forced to use your own personal laptop, desktop, phone, tablet as your device at home. So security would include your home network, the device, and the connectivity between those two. Oh, look at that. The next item is the connectivity itself. So that could be the connectivity within your household. You may be forced to share your work from home situation with children, a loved one, a roommate. There could be a whole bunch of people competing for that wireless network that you have and for your internet bandwidth. So connectivity can be a challenge. The third one is productivity. And this talks to having a workspace at home where you can focus on what you're trying to get accomplished. It's very difficult if you're not used to working at home, and we'll go into that a little bit. And the last one is, how do you retain culture? How do you retain your company culture? How do you continue to work with your coworkers as in a similar fashion as you would if you were in the cube next to them, or at least on the same floor in the same building? And with that, we'll actually go into the demo here. We'll walk through. I've actually got a script here, folks, that I'm going to try to make sure that I hit on as many points in the time allotted as I can. This is not meant to be an overall in-depth training of Teams, but should get you introduced into many of the ways that Teams can be used to help replicate what you do at the office. So we're going to start with the Teams environment. The Teams environment has, if you look down the left side here, are areas of Teams that are very specific. So the activity is what you'll see in the shared, I guess you'd say the channel discussion. So this is kind of the ad hoc discussions that you'll see. This is an activity feed, things that are going on. You'll see here, Gary mentioned me There's an @mention capability here, which I'll talk about a little later. You can see here's a thumbs up. So there's a lot of activities, and what we're showing here are replies, the thumbs up, the @mentions, and so on. So that's what you'll see is captured here, and the conversation around those activities. Next, you'll see that there's chat. Chat, you can actually divvy up into pinned and recent. So when I have something that I know, a conversation that I need to refer to sometime soon, I put it in my pinned area. It's very easy to take a recent discussion, like here, this one with Gary. If I go to the ellipses, I can say, hey, let's pin this, and it'll move up into the pinned area. And obviously, I can back out of that through unpin. Very simple way to keep current discussions in front of you and leave the others here for your benefit later on. So recent and pinned. You'll also see that there's contacts here. I can take my contacts and I can favorite them. So Alex here, I talk to regularly, and same with Brad. I put them in a team, so I actually group them so I could find them easily. But maybe the standalone favorites go here, if that makes sense. I also group for marketing events. I'm going to talk to one of these people. So I've divvied up. I can create a group anytime. Down here, create a new contact group and get a group going. I'm actually just going to skim over all of these, and I'm going to go back and do these in depth. The next one is Teams. Now, Teams is very interesting in that Teams allows you to group your discussions around and other resources according to specific events, departments, projects. You get the feel for what I'm going for here. So anything that, anytime that you need to group information together, and that information can, as you can see across the top here, it could be posts, it could be files, it could be a wiki. These are other additional tabs that we have added. You can add applications at the top of each channel. So when we talk about teams and channels, the team here is Team Cloud Ops, right? And the channels start with general, and you can see there are actually a couple of hidden channels that only I and who I invite can see. Otherwise, everyone in the Cloud Ops team can see what's below here. So it's a great way to kind of gather information and keep it together. It's a very different way to arrange your day. So I used to live in Outlook. It was very distracting because every time that I saw an email pop up, it would take me off into Never Never Land, and I could rabbit trail forever. Unfortunately, or I should say fortunately, I found Teams, and Teams is very much in use and alive and well here at Executech, and I've learned to love it. And the differences between Teams and why you might want to go with being more team-centric than Outlook-centric is that you can, well, let me first say what's maybe bad about living in Outlook. If you live in Outlook, one of the things that's bad is trying to find something. So if I have I know that I got an email with an attachment at some point from Gary, and I don't know when it was. I don't know the title in it. I know we talked about X, Y, or Z. So I could go into Outlook, do in the search bar, type in event, and I'm going to get just a slew of emails, some with attachments, some not. Then I could go with attachments, sort according to attachments, and so on. But if I know what the event was, it's probably going to be listed as a channel. And I can go to a channel, for instance, process and procedure here, and I could go to files, and that file would be here. So in this case, we're building a process for Teams, right? For partner guidance from Microsoft in regards to Teams. So I have that file here. Very easy for me to find that file. The cool thing is I could also reference an email discussion. I could reference, again, You see at the top here, I've got quotes and templates. I've got tasks. I've got basically looking at the process and procedure requirements, any resources that have to do with them. I find them all in one place. So it's much more efficient. At least I find it to be much more efficient than living in Outlook. The other part of it is, when we'll go back to chat here in a moment, you'll see that the chats that we have now, you may be using some other third party to do your chats in. You may be texting on your phone. Who knows how you're doing that? Here we have only the chats that have to do with that each channel associated with that channel. If you kick off the discussion in the channel. So it's a very easy way to take all that casual chatter, files, applications. So for instance, project plans, spreadsheets, Word documents, anything, all together and that need to be associated together. So that's channels and teams. Then I have a calendar. Calendars here to it actually replicates my Outlook calendar. I'm going to have I have some options up here: work week, just a single day, the entire week itself. And you can see I could either launch meetings immediately or launch a new meeting, in which case it looks just like scheduling a meeting in Outlook. And indeed, they do sync between each other. I'm not going to go into calls or files much today. So let's go back to activities and look at a couple of things. So activities, as I mentioned, are kind of calls to action or could be kudos or so it's either an action that's required or a reaction that someone else had for the most part if you're looking at that left column there. And when I look at my feed, there may be certain things that I'm looking for. So for instance, I may want to look at my @mentions, because when someone @mentions me, it's usually because I need to take some type of an action. Maybe they've done a group chat and I wasn't sitting at my desk and I've overlooked it for some reason. So I'm going to go back and look at my @mentions to see what I have going on here. So, hey, here's Gary asking, if you look, he's saying, let me know if you're able to access Teams online. So he's asking me to take an action. So the @mentions, if you filter on them, very helpful to understand what your action items are. And again, this takes the place of yelling over the, from your cube to the next cube over, or walking down the hall and sticking your head in someone's office. The entire chat environment is the best thing you're going to find to help you with replicating that in-office environment. I'm also going to say that there are other things here: replies, reactions, voicemails, etc., that you're going to want to sort on, and you'll see unread. I don't have any unreads. That's good. That's kind of like knowing that my plate has been cleared of things that need to be paid attention to. Now I'm going to take you up into the upper right corner here, because there's some things that are very cool, again, about replicating being in the office, or at least trying to. So one of the things is letting somebody know what your situation is. Are you currently present? Are you available? Maybe you're available, but you cannot be disturbed. So these are, if you're using Skype for Business or some other, WhatsApp or some other messaging app, you're probably familiar with these things. So I can set this message at any time. I can also set it over here. I could do, be right back, and set myself to be right back, right? So that's kind of cool. You have some shortcuts to be able to do these things. So now what I'm going to do is put myself on Do Not Disturb, because I'm presenting and I really don't want to be disturbed. And the other thing I can do is I can set a status message. Look at how cool this is. So I'd say, in a Yeah, let's go presenting in a webinar text with any emergency, or I'll connect later. Sorry, I'm such a slow typist. Now, I have, in this case, I can do this. I can set it for an hour, 4 hours. There are a couple of options here. Now, the problem is it's now 2:40, and if it's 2:40, if I set it for an hour, that's not going to work for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to go custom, and I'm going to say I have a specific time that I want you to, after which the message will be cleared. And that time is going to be 3:30. 3:30. All right. So now, not only have I told my coworkers to leave me alone, hopefully they'll respect that, but I'm presenting, I'll be available at 3:30. Okay. So this is a nice way to share all of that. Another thing I'd like to say is when you're in meetings, let's say not at this one, but maybe if I was in a meeting with a vendor, or a meeting with a discovery meeting with a customer, and there was an emergency. So I might want to say, hey, I want some people to be able to get a hold of me. So if I go to do not disturb and I go to manage my priority access, I can manage that. So in this case, what I've done is my coworker and peer, Brad Baird, if he's got an emergency and needs me, he should be able to do that. Same goes for Chris Notes, my manager, and because it's the smart thing to do, let's let the CEO interrupt me if he'd like to. All right, so you have these settings that are available. You can send seed receipts, you can participate in surveys and all that. But I think this managing priority access is a very cool thing. And again, it simulates being at the office. If you close your door, someone looks in and through the window into your office, they have that exasperated look. It's like, I need you now. You're going to maybe put somebody on hold and chat with them. So there's a way to again, almost be in the office. And this whole capability here helps you do that. All right. Next. So when we're talking about chats, there's a couple of things. One is I can look at my recent chats, which again are pinned and recent. To pin, I take a recent and I just go ahead and pin it. Note that I can also mute or hide these, which is often preferable to pinning or just leaving it as is. So there's a number of different ways to participate in chats. You'll notice too that at some point you can leave a chat. So there may be, in this case, Andrew and Jamie and I were looking to chat, and their ongoing chat might need to continue, but I don't need to be included. I can check out of it. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now the pin chats again are for those items where I know I'm going to need these chats and I want them handy. It's just easier to find. Notice that I can filter on keyword, just meetings, or unread. So I've got some chat situations there that I can manage chats a little bit easier depending on the situation. Now what's cool, and maybe this is the best thing that I've found, is that I can sit here and I'm going to be in this chat, and it may be, let's find one here with just Gary. And Gary, we're going to escalate this chat here. So here's one with just Gary, and we had a great dialogue going on, and now we want to be able to, after 3 or 4 back and forths, we're realizing that we need to kind of discuss it. So I can go up here to the upper right, and make an audio call to Gary. And you hear it ringing. And you'll see I've got some meeting options, which we'll go over in just a moment here. Hey, Gary. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Now, I know that we have a lot of people online, Gary, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my incoming video. So now you can see that I've turned that off, and we're just in an audio meeting. And it may be a little bit of feedback here. But in the meeting, you saw that it was that easy to go straight from a chat to a video conference, or it could have been just a voice conference. Notice that I can turn my camera on here. I can mute myself. I can share, which we'll come back to in a moment. And I have other actions. Device settings, this does actually come in handy because I may want to change. If someone's having a problem hearing me or seeing me, I can change to an alternate webcam, for instance. So here's the integrated webcam. I can go to that, or I could go to a different microphone. So sometimes you have technical issues. What's really cool is that you can troubleshoot those on the fly and play with that here. Now, I also have, I can put him on hold and go to another chat if I want, or I can do a consultative transfer, or just a straight up transfer. So just like you would on your phone system, I can take these meetings and move these discussions around. So I'm going to go here now. Let's go back to sharing. So sharing is fantastic. You can share, and these are a bunch of recently shared PowerPoints that I can show. For instance, my free money PowerPoint here. If I wanted to discuss it with Gary, I just pull it up. It is integrated, Teams is integrated with PowerPoint and pulls up that presentation. In this case, it's an internal only discussion about Microsoft Cloud incentives. And I'm not very creative, so I tend to take other people's work and make it mine, like I did here. But it does demonstrate for you that you're able to go and by the way, this is our CEO, not how he normally dresses, but we wanted to be able to work on this together so I can share with Gary and we can discuss it as we go on. Now you can see I do have control here of the I can prevent participants from moving through the presentation on your own, and I can stop presenting. So I do have some controls here. It's not the same as necessarily the full featured control, but not bad for what we need when we're co-developing. It's a great function. So I'm stopping that. I could also pull up, well, it didn't show here, but in this tray, there could be other things. So for instance, there is a whiteboard, Microsoft Whiteboard, which would allow us to actually brainstorm together. There's also about 200 other apps that you're able to integrate, not just Microsoft, but third-party apps that I can integrate into here. One of the things that you'll see on chats is that I can actually add, not in this voice or video chat, but in a textual chat, I can provide other applications where we could work on them together. Actually, I could do that here, but I wouldn't be looking at Gary's face. He's got such a pretty face. All right, Gary. I think what we'll do, we can also show the conversation. So here is a conversation that has to do with our this chat. So again, go back when you talk about how you work together. We have a capability to attach chats, files, applications. I can go to a YouTube video. I can go to a URL. I can do a lot of things and share those with my coworkers, just like at work. So really enjoy doing that. I could also show participants. So in this case, currently in this call are these two people. I can invite third parties here or in-house folks. If it's someone who's in-house, I could just type a couple of letters and click and bring them in. If it's somebody from outside, I would provide them I'd either dial their number and have them connect, or I could send them an email. So we have the ability to integrate with third parties. I would say Teams is, other than live events, Teams is best used in-house. But if you can get federated with your partners or your clients who are also using Teams, it's a wonderful experience. We do that with our friends at Microsoft, and it's much easier to work together that way. All right, I'm going to hang up on you, Gary. Thanks a lot for your help. All right. So in chats, there are, and I was just saying that there's a lot of things you can do in the chat. If you go down to the bottom here, I'm ready to continue my chat with Gary. There's a couple things I can do. One is I can format my message. You see it's a very entry-level word processing application here, but I can do some formatting. I think I could also add a link, and there are additional options that I don't use very often, but they are there for you. Now, if you go across here, you'll see here I could set my delivery options. And earlier you saw that I've got notifications that I can decide if my status is, no matter what my status is, that people can get a hold of me. Now, this is going the other direction, right? If I'm trying to get a hold of someone else, I can send a standard message. I can send a message that'll be flagged as important, or I can send an urgent message where the recipients are notified every 2 minutes for the next 20 minutes. So if you really need to get a hold of someone, for instance, right now I see that Gary is showing green and available. So he's probably going to respond right away. But if I saw a red, meaning busy, button, then maybe I'm going to make the call. This is urgent. No matter what Gary's doing, I really need to get a hold of him, and I want some way to tell him that. So I could flag it as important, or it's really urgent, send him urgent. If he doesn't see the urgent, then I'll call him. But normally, again, most of us are living in teams. So this is great. And again, it's not the same as being in the office, but if you know how to use these features, it's very, very helpful. You can do very simple things that you would normally expect you could do. For instance, I can attach a file. I can put in emojis. And I'll show you, if you don't think that emojis and GIFs are used, I'll show you the end of our March town hall meeting. So this is at the end of our meeting. And yeah, we have folks that get pretty into all these GIFs. And yeah, this guy, Branson, he's hungry. He just wants you to know that, all right, it's breakfast time because we do these early in the day. And he hasn't eaten yet. In my case, it'd be coffee. Mark is actually much better looking than this. Anyways, you get the idea that you can go ahead and insert, here's a smiley face, and here are other, whoops. Let me get back to where I was here. I'm going to go back to Gary. And if I want to send him a message, I definitely have my smiley faces. I could be a little more expressive. I can go, if I don't want to take up bandwidth, maybe I've got some cartoon that I want to use that he would understand, or maybe it's an inside joke between us that I can send something. But you can see we have fun with this. I'll tell you, Executech, we're all over the West, first of all, so we don't always see each other anyway. And now in this case, you see more and more use of these ways to express ourselves other than just text. And it really does help to maintain our culture, which we talked about earlier. Now you'll see that there's also something called Stream. Stream is Microsoft's video cataloging solution. So when we finish this, a chat, if you finish a chat, or you have a meeting, I should say, if you're having a meeting and you record the meeting and you want to save it for posterity, so you do record it and you want to put it in a library so others can get at it, you go to Stream, leave it there. Now, when I want to look at a training that I've missed, I could go to Stream, or maybe I'm telling Gary about, oh, you missed this training on PowerShell, you really need to see it, and I'll go ahead and provide that to him. You'll also note here we could share praise. In this case, I've attached a couple of bots. So there's a weather bot. I could just say, hey, just so you know what I'm dealing with here. There it is, 63, partly sunny. Here's what's going on in Northern California today. I could also do places. So if I'm trying to tell somebody to meet me somewhere in a chat, I could put in a place. So here, how about a Tasty Freeze? Is there a nearby Tasty Freeze somewhere? Oh, Anchorage, Alaska. I guess we're not going to go there. All right. YouTube. This is another app that we can extend into our chats. A very convenient one. I find it very convenient because there are a lot of Microsoft trainings on Teams, and I could reference someone to the exact place that they need to go to learn how to do X, Y, or Z. And in view of the latest goings on in the stock market, I added stocks here because people want to know. I could add other apps as well, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Being able to have a plethora, and this is just a taste, these are just messaging related apps, right? Rich content apps that I can insert into a chat. I can also take these same apps and make a tab in a channel. So for instance, I have a planner app, and I'm actually going to show you this for a moment. I'm going to flip over here. Executech is pursuing the Azure Expert MSP certification with Microsoft. So we created a channel, and within that channel, we have files that are relevant to the Azure Expert MSP certification. And then I added this plan. This is out of Microsoft Planner. And within that plan, I've got multiple buckets that come right from the preparation document for the audit to get our Azure MSP Expert. So you can see, you can put, again, everything you need to pursue a project all in one place. I'm going to go back to the chat. So I think we've exhausted actually everything in chat. Yeah, that is most of what you'll find in chat. Teams, I think we went over, really pinning teams, having a total list of all the teams. These are channels, which are, if you think of it as a subdirectory of a team, right? A particular, it would be either an event, a project, a department, anything along those lines, right? That you need to get a number of people engaged with and working on. And then we'll talk about calendar. I think we're, Gary, how are we on time? I'm sorry, I did not track the beginning time here.
The end here, probably maybe 4 minutes.
All right. So just know that in terms of meetings, again, I can do a meet now and set that up. It's very simple. I can invite folks on the fly, or I can set up a new meeting. If I schedule a meeting, one of the cool things is if I'm working with folks in a channel, I just want everyone in the channel to attend, I just put that channel name in here, which is a very convenient way to do it. Okay, everyone working on Azure Expert MSP, I'd like to see you at this meeting. So it's a very, very simple interface. And again, it does sync with your Outlook. I'm going to discard that, and I am going to quit sharing. How are we doing on questions, Gary?
I do want to hit on just a couple of things that we've had brought up before. You touched on it a little bit, but I just wanted to help people understand how to invite external users into Teams. My understanding is that is an admin level control, whether that's enabled or not. So that's one piece, but then how do they go about actually making that invitation?
So yes, I did the drop down that showed our in-house attendees, where you type a letter or two and it'll give you the list. If you want an external attendee, you provide an email address in that place, send them that email, and they'll get the meeting invite, just as if they had got a meeting invite from Outlook. Great.
And again, just to emphasize for people, that may be a setting that is turned off by default, so that is something your administrator will have to turn on. Another question that we've had come up before, those who are in organizations or companies that are compliant heavy, they need to have access to the logs, all of the team's logs and that data. Is there a way to access those logs? Is there a way to export them and to then purge them if needed?
That's a great question, and I forgot that question come up before. I would have addressed it. So it's very important. Obviously, security is pervasive throughout the Office 365 suite. And in fact, data governance extends into Teams. Now, what's interesting is that Teams in the back end is kind of a pretty GUI with a little bit of functionality, but it's really an interface between multiple Office 365 apps. So depending on who creates what and brings what to a chat, a file, for instance, may be stored in a person's OneDrive, or it may be stored in SharePoint if it was created for the channel. So what happens is the governance in those is applied. It's just not as obvious, perhaps, what's going on. So there's the data governance that's already in place across all Microsoft 365, which includes the ability to purge, to set the retention periods, to do legal hold, and very deep governance capabilities, which GDPR compliance. There's no end to the amount of security, and that's actually a great subject. Maybe we should note that for a future webinar to do exactly that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I think just in closing with everybody, wanted to mention just a few quick things. If you have additional questions about how to use Teams, how it's getting implemented in your organization, we are happy to address those one-on-one. And we are also, of course, we can help you set up Teams within your organization or any Office 365 needs that you may have. So please reach out, let us know if you need a training like this one done on a one-on-one or even just to your organization. We are happy to do that as well. And then on that note, of course, this recording is available. You are welcome to share it to those who need it and who need this information. The last thing is we'll send out an email shortly with the recording, and we also will have a link to a feedback survey about this webinar in particular, but we also want to get your feedback on what are content topics that you want to hear more about. We want to be providing the information that you need during this coronavirus situation, especially as you start working from home, the considerations and challenges that you may be facing. And we want to talk about some ways to overcome those. So we'd love to hear from you, and so please look for that. Jeff, I think that's it. Thank you so much. Great presentation, and we will see everybody around next time.
Thank you, Gary, and thanks everyone for attending.